So when you're talking in your groups, make sure that you have an explanation for why.
Talking about the Articles of Confederation, what are the things that you know, no matter what version you're talking about?
Anything you want to say about that, you can write it. But let's get stuff up on the board now and then get to work talking.
Average is high, standard deviation is low. Because often you can get... Hello, and welcome to today's program. I'm Marcus Lloyd, and I'll be your program host, or guide, if you will, as Starlink goes on the road. Today, we'll be traveling to 4 campuses and meeting 4 award-winning and inspiring instructors. We'll get a chance to see them in action, as well as learn firsthand how they create the active classroom. Besides being the recipients of the 2005 Professor of the Year Awards, given by the Carnegie Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching and the Council for Advancement and Support of Education, these undergraduate professors share another commonality: a unique style and ability to interact and engage their students, thus creating a successful learning environment. Now, before we get started, I want to mention one thing. Immediately following the broadcast, you get an opportunity to interact and engage with these colleagues, ask questions, and share your thoughts and ideas in a 30-minute audio conference. Now, to be a part of the discussion, dial 1-800-745-0371. Then press 1 to attend the meeting. Next, enter the ID 102606, followed by the pound sign. These numbers and steps can be found on page 4 of your print packet, so you can refer to them after the show. Now, before we meet our first instructor, we thought it would be insightful to hear some of the perspectives of the students we met along the way. Students in their learning. In our third stop, we visit with the 2005 Illinois Professor of the Year Award winner, Vali Siadat, a professor and chair of the Department of Mathematics at Richard J. Daley College in Chicago, Illinois. Vali discusses how he incorporates active learning in a discipline that tends to be more structured, and specifically addresses a method he developed called the Keystone Method.
When I started at Richard J. Daley College about 25 years ago, I was an instructor, and I was a traditional teacher. I think I was a good teacher. I wanted to become a better teacher. So through years of research, practice, work, collaboration, I improved myself, I improved my teaching, and I think I improved my students' knowledge of mathematics. Good morning, class. How is everybody today? An active classroom is the one which puts the student at the center. And the teacher is becoming the function. In other words, the student is the variable, if you can use a mathematical term. The active learning philosophy is really embodied in the Keystone Method. And the Keystone Method uses the method of direct instruction, but it continuously assesses student learning and monitors their activities. In other words, students are the center of the attention, and the teacher has to adjust their teaching as to how the students are learning. It provides with dynamic and constructive feedback, and it attempts to raise the students' mastery of the topics. And by diversifying the teaching techniques from lecture to cooperative learning, peer tutoring, it adjusts to the learning needs of the students. We have a so-called formative assessment tool, which is like in the form of quizzes. Let's say these quizzes are hybrid. They have different types of questions. And following the quiz, we go over the results of the quiz right away in the classroom. And so we reteach some of those topics that the students had shown difficulty. So the students get their answers and results right away. So they don't have to wait another week for the teacher to correct their papers. And then by going and reteaching, we can improve their ability to do the difficult problems in the follow-up quizzes. And another thing is that we don't grade on curve. And the reason we don't grade on curve, we like to hold the students accountable to some standards. So we say that if everybody reaches that standard, everybody gets an A. For instance, if everybody has a 95% in a test or quiz, that's a standard of excellence, 90%. This way we encourage collegiality and cooperativeness. So students tend to help each other out rather than staying away from each other and not talking to each other. And collegiality and cooperativeness is something which goes beyond the classroom. It forms a smaller learning communities outside of the classroom. Students tend to congregate in cafeteria, library, outside to work with each other because they know they take interest in each other's fate. Since the y-intercept is b, this point is what? Is b. Is that correct? First thing, we walk into the classroom and we have the statistical analysis of the formative test they took, which is the quizzes. And then we give them a roster report. And in the roster report, students see their progress curve. They not only see their progress curve, but they see the entire class. Of course, the names are blocked. We can just use code words. But so they get a global view of the classroom as well as their own progress curve. Also, we go over some of the difficult questions that the class had not been able to do well. And so we reteach those. If the teacher feels the class is moving in an accelerated way, he would emphasize covering more topics. When the teacher feels that the class are splitting, some people are learning, some people are not, then the teacher uses the cooperative learning peer tutoring technique. So the students from each quartile of the class congregate, work on a problem sheet for 10-15 minutes and discuss the difficulties with each other. And the teacher acts as a facilitator, moves around and helps the students with their questions or problems. Then they go to the board and then they show their findings to the entire class. So the whole class benefits from each person's contribution, and each person benefits from the class's contribution. And following that, there is a formative quiz or test to see how students have learned through those discussions. And one good thing about it is that it tends to improve students' activity. In other words, it just takes them out of that passive mode because of the discussion of stronger students with weaker students, help them interact and become better. And the essence of this work that they do together, I strongly believe, and we have seen that it translates to what happens outside of the class. So we have a small community in the classroom which forms into mini communities, and the mini communities communicate with each other outside of the classroom. You'll see them that they are there in the classroom before the teacher enters. So you see them, they're working together before even the teacher is present. So unlike a regular classroom that when the teacher is absent, students disperse. Active classroom students tend to work together even if the teacher is not there. And I think this is how an active classroom should be. Okay, draw the line 2x minus 4y equal to 8, okay? The Keystone method, although it was originally evolved through mathematics, however, its premises, its tenets, its concepts can be applied to other disciplines. In fact, one of our colleagues in geography used the method in her geography classes, and she reported very good results. So it's really not discipline dependent. It is dependent on the kind of students we have. One of the things about the Keystone method is that it improves students' persistence in other mathematics classes and also at the college. You switch the direction of inequality from bigger than to less than. Is there a reason you did that? There's an element of motivation too that I should emphasize on, because oftentimes students have been traumatized by negative experiences of mathematics. They were never successful, they failed, and again, now they come to you. By showing them they can be successful, you can really motivate them. And motivation is something that will make them persist in the mathematics class or in a social science class or at the college. So this element of motivation is there when you show the students a way to succeed. And the way to succeed is something that we do. And it carries out its effect in other disciplines, in other classes too. I think this is also a very important element of active learning or active teaching or keystone teaching.
Rounding out the program and sharing her tips and specific